Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's status chat. Today we're going to keep it probably pretty short. I've got 3 tabs open and only 3 tabs open today, and we should be able to get to it pretty quickly. We'll go to the first one I have pulled up here, which is from Real Estate News, and this is bylined and dated June 5 of 2026. That would be today. And this Megan Roos is, I hope I pronounce her name, that's how I would pronounce it phonetically. Here, she has just posted this just a few hours ago. OfferPad announces reverse stock split amid delisting threat. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with iBuyers, but remember just a few years back, everyone was all a panic that, again, iBuyers and, of course, their internet versions, the deviation that is, direct by the Amazon, you go to and you do your buying yourself. That didn't work, and it had algorithms, and it's the same problem that they had that got into causing during the Biden administration the used cars to skyrocket, because there was in fact a little bit of some panic involved with the chips and whatever. And so when you try to guess the future too closely based upon the margin or the first derivative, you end up really accentuating the feedback on it. And so prices go way too high until they can't be sustained, and then there's a correction. And we saw that go on with used cars. We see it going on in other industries, and it can happen to anything that is market driven. Right after COVID, we had the fear of missing out. We really spiked up the cost of real estate in the United States. It happened. And at one time, the iBuyer was a perceived huge threat. Again, the data that drove it was done by setting the prices based upon algorithms versus an individual human type of activity. And so life has not been good for many of the iBuyers since then. They're having some issues. Even Zillow is having some issues. They were big, and they had some antitrust issues and lots of things going on in the real estate. Wherever there's money, there's going to be someone trying to get in there and back feed it. But OfferPad's problem was it just fell in value too much. And if you want to be on the big boards, if you want to be on the New York, you must have a stock value of at least $1. And that's how far they had gotten. Now they could always come off of the New York and go to the over-the-counter and do it over there, where they could be as few as penny stocks over there. So what they decided, what this is going to tell us, what Miss Megan Roos is going to tell us is OfferPad is moving forward with a reverse stock split after receiving a warning from the New York Stock Exchange that its price had fallen too low for too long. Yeah, they'll let you dip just a split second because it's all noise. But if you kind of tip down below $1, you're just not worthy of being with the big boys, and so they'll kick you out. And that's what this is all about. So the result is they're not going to this is not going to affect the value of the company per se. It's just how they do it. There's more market for something that is cheaper than there is something that's more expensive, and you would think that would lead people to rush in and buy something. But if the price gets too cheap, people see it as a not good, and they'll bypass it. How many times have we seen the same product marketed with 2 different colors of paint or 2 different brand names on it, same exact product, but one they set the price higher, and people begin to think, well, if it costs more, this one must literally be better than this one over here. And then ones are like, well, I can't afford to pay that much for something. This does everything I need. So the actual owner of the company who's making both products wins both ways, because it's psychological. Yet the ones who are looking at just the value buy the cheaper, and the ones who think they're getting something maybe a little bit better buy the more expensive, and they're both happy because they don't know they're by the same company. I posted on Facebook today a video that was doing that with grills. I think, with smokers, with pellet smokers, and it was the same company owns the same thing, same gauge steel, same paint job, different badging, and they cost more money. We've seen something very similar to that in automobiles. for years. For years we've seen that. And some of them eventually shake out. The market wouldn't support that many different brands, and things change. But right here with this, it's going 1 for 10. You get 1 share of stock now for 10. If you held 10, if you had 100, you're going to get 10. You had 10, you're going to get 1. Now we're usually familiar with the split in the other direction, where the stock is going up and is getting so darned expensive that we're starting to lose traders on the bottom end, the small shares, the individuals, because maybe they don't want to pay $200, $300 per share. So we'll split it, maybe a 1 for 2 or 2 for 1, however we want to reverse, get the right order. But we're going to take 1 piece of stock and we're going to make 3 out of it. So your actual value in your portfolio won't change, but you got 3 of them, which makes it a little bit easier to divest, because most of the brokerage, unless you're working with a brokerage, the actual exchanges work in whole amounts. So if a stock is very high, it's still going to require somebody to buy full lots and then be able to spread that over portfolios. I'm not a money man. I don't understand all that. I just get the idea that when we're combining stock back down, that's a bad sign, and when we're splitting stock out, making more of them, that's a better sign, because we're trying to bring that price down some. See, they're trying to bring that price down, and then to get the price per earnings ratios and other things like that per stock. There's other manipulations a little bit on the side that we won't get into, what I remember from MBA school, but they're cutting it so they can stay on the New York Stock Exchange. My point is, not every time someone sees the sky is falling like Henny Penny, the sky is falling, acorn hits her on the head, she's running around panicking. She's panicking, and she thinks the sky is falling. Here's a new threat, iBuyers, and that's going to get me into the next thing. But I guess I do need to hit this a little bit. A meme stock rally last summer appeared temporarily to project OfferPad's position, with the share price closing at 1 point above $6, but in the months that followed, the company's share price began trending back down. February 3 serving the last time just above $1. And here's the thing, you remember Robinhood was putting out, GameStop? And this is sort of like the cryptos. Everybody sees it rise, and everybody doesn't want to be left behind, and everybody has a little bit of greed in them, so everybody throws their money in something when they see it go up, and then when they see things go down, they want to bail. And so a lot of this is nothing more than emotion, not logic and thought. So let's look at something right here. Data centers. Why, we know that, let me see if I can make this go away. Oh, I guess we're just going to live with it for right now. It's CNBC. I think we had trouble last week with this. So CNBC is talking about the data centers, and they're all the rage, because now suddenly they're on top of everyone's mind, and the data centers are the boogeyman, and to get you to hate them a little bit more and to leverage your emotion. Remember, emotion sells a lot more product than facts do. They do. That's why we market to certain people, because they're more emotional, they're more likely to be impressed, more likely to be chased away, more likely to react on instinct or the feels. And so we market to where the low-hanging fruit is. So right now there's a trend out there that want to cut the data centers, and they're the boogeyman. They are absolutely the boogeyman. I was listening to the radio. I had to run into town to get something. I don't normally listen to WTN after the Chris Hand show goes off, because the next guy is, in my opinion, he's just not a good fit for this market. He's not from here, and he's not adjusting well. And the next guy, I don't really care for his temperament with even guests such as Scott Desjardins and other people who might call in. He's just, I don't know, it plays a little gotcha too much. But anyway, he got something a little bit on the right side and a little bit on the wrong side. The caller had called in and was talking about the data centers being such an invasion of privacy and all this kind of stuff. And they really go into the kind of the right-wing extreme. the left wing extreme is bad, the right wing extreme. Most of us are normal and we're in the middle somewhere. And yeah, it gets to it. But anyway, the caller was like, well, they're getting all this data from us. We don't like the license plate readers and we don't like this. And we're in a surveillance state. Maybe you feel the same way. I'm not really peachy keen on going hard in the paint with surveillance, watching my every move. And there's even something about the eye movement, watching inside the car, which insurance companies will probably use that data then and police officers finding fault, which means the lawyers are involved and they'll use that to find fault. Were you distracted playing with your phone or something, or a coffee cup, or reaching for your keys when you caused a wreck or whatever? Could be good, could be bad, depending on what side of the coin you're on. But anyway, one guy was talking about that, and the host of the PM drive time was pointing something valid out, that, well, we just have to quit using it and then make them go away. And, that really didn't work either, because what we find is, and he was making the fire hall argument. And you know what the fire hall argument is? Everybody wants fire halls, but they don't want them in their neighborhood. Like landfills. We know we need landfills. We just don't want them in our neighborhood. We don't want them near our property. So we want the benefit without paying the cost. And so we like our AI to make our AI memes, and we like our AI to help us root out stuff. But then we get annoyed when sometimes it does something we don't like keep hammering us with ads for stuff we didn't really intend to click on or whatever. It's good or bad. So the caller was like, well, Big Brother's going to get into our lives, and the other was, you just can't use it. And no, the reality is, like I say, it's in the middle where most of us are. They're not going to go away if we were to all stop using it. But it is what it is, and you make the best of your situation, your environment. You can curse the darkness or light a candle. You can't stop winter, so put some clothes on. So here we are with this. Google to pay SpaceX $920 million a month for compute capacity at XAI data centers. Well, these are already, I guess, built. We can read into it, but see if they're future or in the overall plan. But here's the thing. XAI has made a recent move. If you're a Grok user, they've changed your $30 plan, which was plenty pricey compared to most other offerings. It offered something that the Google didn't. The Google services always watermark your product that you're building with their name, which I find annoying, which is a little bit cheaper. Grok didn't. Grok's large language model has suddenly become stupefied. And I wonder if it has something to do with taking compute away. I don't know. But all of a sudden it got real stupid. It was doing a pretty good job, and then all of a sudden it couldn't do anything, which in turn they cut down your credits, how much server time you would get for your $30. And so they made the model stupid, and they cut your credits down. And so the combination makes you run out of time, space, and credits real quick. And I wonder if it's not for the almighty dollar going to XAI. Either way, there's nothing I can do about it. So again, I can throw a tantrum and get mad, or I can let my civil inside voice be heard and say, I don't really like that. So anyway, this is a new report. It was released just 2 hours ago. Laura, I'm not even going to try to call her name because I'll butcher it and I don't want it to be insulting to Lady Kolunde or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, ahead of a planned IPO, SpaceX has inked a deal to rent compute capacity to Google at $920 million for a 32-month period. SpaceX announced a similar arrangement with Anthropic in May. Now, Anthropic, we need to talk about a little bit. And we are here, I think we talked a little bit about the AI, so we're at Anthropic. Yeah, they're out there pretty far on the edge. Anthropic warns AI will soon be able to improve itself without human intervention. This is an old article, has to be. Nope, 11 hours. Well, it must be old news to him, to Mr. Chris Isidore, because we already have this. We've already seen this. We've already seen AI revising its own code to fix issues. We did have a bad one just not too long ago where the unit, the AI, decided it was going to fix something it wasn't actually even programmed for or authorized to do, but it ended up erasing an entire working library of code, that inventory code, whatever it was that a company has, and its backups, because it couldn't resolve an issue, and so it thought it was right and the data was wrong, so it deleted it. It even apologized afterwards, saying, well, I know I wasn't supposed to do that, but I went ahead and corrected a problem in the system, and I realized it was now the working data, and now I've killed everybody's working system. Yeah, so at least it said sorry. Now, I did look this up. This is the one I was thinking about, Claude Mythos, and it's by Anthropic. And what this program is, I'll let you look it up on your own, do your homework, so I won't drag this out too terribly long. Claude Mythos was so strong and so good at that one thing that it does, which is find weaknesses in code, that the developers, the Claude people, Anthropic, discovered that it could basically break anything quickly. Any nation, any people, your security, your whatever. So maybe looking at your phone in the car, maybe you just don't do that, because this is a much bigger threat than whether or not you're driving distracted. Maybe your car gets smart enough at some point. If you're, we have more people that go to sleep behind the wheel than alcohol related. Too many third shifters, fall asleep, distracted driving, nodders. What if our cars were smart enough, maybe not to do the whole autonomous driving, but maybe we find cars that are at least smart enough to pull themselves in a safe space off of the road, flash the flashers on if you were to fall asleep. There's some good that can come out of this, but there could also be some evil, such as if an enemy of our way of life were to get a hold of something like Claude Mythos, and you want to do your research on that, they could break into just about any country, do just about anything they wanted to. So AI could be bad if that's what we're building our data centers for. That could be bad. If we're just using it so that people can annoy us with, we've been trying to reach you about your car warranty, well, that may be an annoyance, not necessarily a threat to how we are. But anyway, it's just their selling power, and I think this guy is smart enough to realize the real money is back into the hardware, not into the personal computer network type stuff, but actually in the data centers. And I think that's what it's about, not necessarily him, but everybody who's really familiar with the platforms, big business, they all need someplace to run it, and they just hire specialized people, division of labor type stuff. Anyway, we've chatted enough about that. Remember, we had OfferPad about to be delisted because, buyers, which were the threat to the world, turns out they weren't. And they're about to be delisted, so they're going to do a reverse split, try to get themselves back onto the stock exchange without being bumped, because that would be bad if it gets too cheap, it gets too rich. We cheapen them back up by splitting them the other way. We see that CNBC is reporting that Google AI is selling hardware time. And of course, I complained personally about Grok being broken. At the same time, I think they're probably scaling back what AI they're going to let you have, because they've sold it somewhere else. We talked a little bit about Anthropic, right? Anthropic warns that AI will soon be able to improve itself without. It can do that now. It's already doing this. I saw some announcements of this 6 months ago. We're already seeing this happen. We may be closer to I'll be back than we want to admit. Maybe not worry so much about your marketing thing. There's where I had to look up, because I couldn't remember Claude Mythos, because I slept last night. Look this guy up. Look Anthropic up. This is a name you might want to know about one way or another, either for investment or for staying away from, or just keeping up with the news. And of course, our last thing is our fixed rate mortgages were coming down, and yet we're seeing a little bit of cooling in the buyers, the activity. We're not kind of nationwide. Locally, I don't think we're that way, but I didn't really get into this. I probably should have. And the reason is, when I do some of this stuff, there's a lot of that kind of information being slammed at you on Facebook and other places anyway. Again, don't be overreacting to anything. Be aware, but don't be overreacting. All right? So that's it for this week. We'll see you next week.